Mount Curtin School of Medical Research in Canberra, Australia. He is also interested in autoimmune inflammatory diseases. His research led him to the National Institute of Health in the United States. With such extensive knowledge, we are so honored to have him here with us today. Can I borrow your hands, ladies and gentlemen? Please give a round of applause to invite our Vice President of Global Research and Development for Finance, Dr. Mark Barker.
Well, hello everyone. It's so good to be here. Thank you. What a nice warm crowd. I love Malaysia. And I'm full of Malaysian food right now too. So thank you for a nice welcome, and let's talk a little bit about science. And when I hear workshop, it sounds like hard work, doesn't it? So we'll try to make this fun and explain a little science while we're here. I don't know if everyone likes getting up in the morning and going to their jobs. In fact, I often follow distributors on stage that talk about how wonderful it is to have the freedom of no job. I'm one of the exceptions. I wake up every morning and I go to this place and I love my job. I get to work with a bunch of really good scientists, and we are thinking of ideas and we are confirming some of those ideas. It really is fun. And it's part of our mission statement, right? To improve lives with innovative products. So that's my role, and I love it, and I share that role with other scientists. So there's me talking with Joe and Helen, and we get to do that all the time. We also get to work with some other famous scientists. Now I know for most of you, especially the men out there, you'd rather meet your sports heroes, right? Yeah, when I was a kid, all my friends traded, rugby cards. Got it, need it. Remember that? The rugby cards? The rugby guys were not my heroes. I was a bookworm. So my heroes were the scientists. And so I actually get to talk with these guys quite frequently. One of my big heroes since I was a teenager is this guy right here, Lester Packer, the father of antioxidants. Now I get to talk with him anytime I want through our New Skin Connection. He's one of our scientific advisory board members. So that's a lot of fun too. But today we're just going to talk a little bit about what New Skin focuses on the most, and that is aging, right? Specifically anti-aging. And when I talk about aging, what do you think about? Do you think positive thoughts? Is aging something that you look forward to? Yeah, most people don't really look forward to aging, right? But some things can improve with age. My wife tells me I look handsome with age. My grey hair looks good on me, she says. Cheese gets better with age. Wine gets better with age. The violin gets better with age. Some things do improve as long as you age well. But there are things that we want to keep doing as we age, right? I love to stay physically active. I want to stay physically active all my life. I want to be able to enjoy association with my friends and my family. So think about the things that you want to hang on to, and that helps you to understand why we need to age well. And that's what we're talking about. So when we talk about aging, and we talk about anti-aging, it's not necessarily living longer, it's living better years, isn't it? So this is probably not going to translate very well into Chinese, but I do like to say, I want to die young, as late in life as possible. Right? So aging is something that concerns people. As David already mentioned, the aging population is increasing. That is very interesting. And younger people are wanting to avoid the signs of aging, and older people just don't want to grow old, right? But that does give us a great business opportunity as well. So today, I want to talk about our latest invention, discovery if you will, AgeLock YouthSpan Pack. And I like that. It's like Life Pack, only it's YouthSpan Pack, right? And where did this come from? So, part of what we do is, I'm giving a science presentation here, but part of it is also to help you explain this to your friends, right? So remember some of these, we're trying to simplify the science, so that when you get stuck in an elevator with someone, you can tell them before the door opens a little bit more about our products, right? Or about our science. So what about YouthSpan? And what about youth preservation? Well, as I mentioned, it's not just about increasing your lifespan, but increasing or promoting the years that you can enjoy being healthy, active, energetic. Right? So, what makes our product different? There must be other products out there that are claiming to help keep you young, right? Are there? Actually, I don't know all that many, but why would ours be different? I'm going to focus on 3 different areas. First of all, this product was developed from exclusive gene expression insights into healthy aging. Some of you already know what I'm talking about. I will expand on that. It's a proprietary blend of ingredients that, even though they're not completely unique, they're very difficult to obtain even in a healthy diet. So we're not talking about new drugs here, we're talking about ingredients that come from the plant world that you may have heard of, but you just don't get to eat those every day. And then finally, it's different because it provides systemic youth preservation benefits by modulating ADMs, or aging defense mechanisms. Alright, so 2 words in there, 2 things that you probably didn't catch right away. What does systemic mean, and what are aging defense mechanisms? So I'll talk about those as well. So let's focus on the first point then. It's developed from exclusive gene expression research. And this is something that makes it very unique. Let's talk about that for a minute. Because that's really what our age-lock science encompasses, right? Age-lock is about targeting the sources of aging, and it primarily concerns our work in gene expression, right? Genetics. So why are we interested in genetics? Right? We all know, I think, that in every cell there's a copy of the DNA. You knew that, right? Now, question for you. Does the DNA change as you age? It doesn't change. So DNA is like the book, it's like the instructions for creating and maintaining your human body. Now this is like a recipe book. And in this recipe book there are 25,000 recipes that we call genes. 25,000 recipes. You'd think there'd be more, wouldn't you? But it's about 25,000. Now, those recipes don't change. They stay the same. The printed word on those recipe books stays the same no matter how old or young you are. So again, why are we interested in genes? We're interested in gene expression. So that is something that does change as you age. Think of your body as some kind of restaurant where the body at will is able to call up various recipes to build and maintain your body. 25,000 of them. The recipes that are used more often or less often, that does change as you age. Do you get that? Do I see you nodding your heads? That's called gene expression. That does change as you age. And so you can get a pattern of gene expression that is associated with young or old, or even aging in a healthy manner and aging in a normal manner. So we're looking at a pattern of gene expression. How do we find this? Through the gene chip. The gene chip, if you take a sample of skin or whatever from your body, it can measure those recipes, the ones that are being produced a lot of and the ones that there's very little. That then gives you a bright light or a dim light depending upon that recipe and whether or not we're getting a lot or a little. Right? So that's what these dots are from the gene chip. There are 45,000 dots on that chip. It's a lot of information. But we now have found, using LifeGen Technologies, Gene Expression Research Database, a pattern that's associated with aging well. That is our gold standard. That is what we use then to measure and to determine whether various ingredients found in nature are actually turning our gene expression into healthy aging or not. So that's like the age-lock filter. Now we get an ingredient library here. And what comes through the filter? What is able to give information to our genes to help us to have healthy young gene expression? Those are the ingredients that we formulate, our anti-aging products. So this is what it looks like in terms of the science. What we have here then is the pattern of gene expression associated with typical aging. How many of you want to be typical agers? You want to age typically? Normally? How do you want to age? Sorry? Yeah, you want healthy aging, right? You want really good aging. So we actually have the pattern of expression for healthy aging. This information is amazing to have. This cost millions of dollars and many, many years of research. We bought LifeGen Technologies in 2009, and it has taken us this long to establish this database of healthy versus typical aging. A long time and millions of dollars. This is what is really cool information, because now we use the age-lock filter to screen for ingredients that we can give to a person who is on a typical aging path to make them more look like the healthy aging path. Now, how did we get the healthy aging path, you may ask? How did we find this gene expression pattern? Anyone curious about that? This is something that the lawyers, are we being recorded today? Because really we haven't been able to talk about it very much, and I have to be a little bit cryptic here. David, close your ears. Really, it's a very strict nutritional regimen. It's something that is very difficult for most people to adhere to. This is something that you would find very, very difficult, but it is possible to age well with a very, very strict dietary regimen. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's almost impossible for you to adhere to. Your lives would be miserable. You would live a long time and you'd be very healthy, but you'd be kind of miserable because of the kind of food that you have to eat and the quantity of it, right? So that's how we establish this healthy aging pattern. So now, feeding sort of normal aging people those ingredients, this is what the pattern looked like. This is the age-lock YouthSpan ingredients. What does it look like? Does it look like unhealthy aging? No, yeah. So that's all you have to know. You don't have to understand all of this, except that that is the pattern for healthy aging that's been mimicked by age-lock YouthSpan pack. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? I think that deserves a round of applause. Yeah. You know, I just described that in 5 minutes, and it took us 6 years to do that research. Okay, so just in summary then, right, I've talked about the first one, let's go to the second one, a proprietary blend. So when we scoured the world for ingredients that are able to communicate with your cells and influence the gene expression, what did we find? Well, again, we didn't find any drugs. That's not what we were looking for. We were finding ingredients found in nature that people typically consume in healthy diets. And what we found is that these ingredients are found all over the world. They're the kind of ingredients that maybe you have 1 or 2 of them in your daily life, but most of them you don't. Right? For example, some of the ingredients that we found are in locations that you don't visit very often and you don't get to eat. One example is in, do you know what country that is?
Peru.
Yeah, this is Peru right here. And this is purple corn. Now, not all purple corns are the same, right? So when we found out about this ingredient and we put it through our filter and it was so active in the gene expression, and then we looked at the price of this ingredient, we said, holy cow, I don't think that we can afford to sell this to our customers. It's expensive. So I had a brilliant idea. I said, well, I know that there are many strains of purple corn, and we have them in China, and we have a lab in China. So I instructed my lab in China to go out and find the different kinds of purple corn and to analyze them in the lab for that active ingredient that we know is in them, the anthocyanin. And after a month and a half of work, my science team came back to me and said, we have analyzed these 3 strains that we found. And I was like, tell me the results. This is going to be great, because we can grow this and we won't have to spend so much money on this raw ingredient. And they said, 0, 0, 0. That active was not found in these other species of purple corn. So we had to get the specific one from Peru. That's one that we can't grow because it is a patented strain. So we use this particular strain of purple corn. It's expensive, but it's in our product, right? So there's one example. You don't get to travel all over the world, and certainly you don't get to Peru very often, and they have this purple drink there that they make with the purple corn, right? Anyone speak Spanish? It's called chicha morada, right? And sometimes it's alcoholic. Woo, it's really good. So other ingredients like that are in the product. Now, sometimes you don't get these ingredients because of personal preference. How many of you, when you eat an orange or a lemon, eat the skin with the fruit? No, we don't. This is a little crazy, and your face will look like this, right? In some countries they actually do, right? So in Mediterranean countries, sometimes they do eat the skin. So again, this is not something that you're getting every day, and it's certainly not something that you like the taste of. So that's another example of an ingredient that has in the skin some very valuable bioflavonoids that again are able to communicate with our cells and influence the gene expression in a positive way. Now another example. Sometimes it's a fairly common ingredient. Does anyone recognize this herb?
Rosemary.
Rosemary. It's a lovely herb, and we use it in small amounts in some dishes. There's a dish that I like to eat. It's pork with carrots, and the rosemary flavoring is wonderful. Slow cook it all day. Just smells fantastic. But I don't eat that every day. Even though you have rosemary sometimes, you don't eat it every single day in the same dose, right? And so that's what we're doing here, is that every day, Monday through Sunday, day and night, YouthSpan pack gives you that same dose of those active ingredients from the rosemary. So there's 3 examples there about why it's so difficult to get these, even from a healthy diet. Does that make sense? All right, and then the final point, those 2 things that I said maybe you didn't understand, systemic and aging defense mechanisms. So let's talk about that. What is an aging defense mechanism? Have you heard that before? This is something, when we look at the science, we have to sort of try to break it down and find a simple way to understand it and study it and explain it. And the best way to explain the way that this product works, the way that these ingredients work, is through aging defense mechanisms. The body basically has the ability to push back against aging. You just have to be able to unlock that mechanism. And that's something that has been the subject of a number of discoveries over the last decade. I think it actually began first with this ingredient called resveratrol, right? That red wine ingredient. And a scientist by the name of Sinclair discovered that it had an effect on gene expression. It actually had an effect on the way that the DNA was wound tightly into these structures called chromatin. And it actually imparted a sort of a defense mechanism in these mice that were studied that helped them to live longer. So that paper that he published subsequently was read by the LifeGen scientists who did more gene expression studies. And the paper that they published was read by a guy by the name of Joe Chang. Remember him? Yeah. He read that paper, and he's not one that just sits around and goes, that's interesting, okay, what else do I need to read? He actually called them on the phone immediately and said, I'm very interested in what you did with resveratrol, and I'm interested in the gene expression work that you did, And Nu Skin right now is very interested in that kind of work. Why don't you come and talk to us? So they came to the Nu Skin office on the 9th floor. And I remember that first meeting. And I remember leaning over to Joe and saying, Joe, these are the guys that have what we want right now. This explains what we've been looking for. It unites this anti-aging with gene expression that we've been looking for. So, where was I? Oh yeah, aging defense mechanisms. So that uncovered one of these. And it turns out that, you know, from the way that we look at it, there are about 6. But the bottom line is that they push back against aging. They help your body to fight aging aggressors. So we call them aging defense mechanisms. So there are about 6 there. They're controlled by gene expression, as Sinclair discovered and as Weindruck and Proler discovered. They're controlled by gene expression. They're found naturally throughout the body. So they're not just sort of things floating in your body. I don't mean that. I mean that every cell has a copy of DNA. And in that DNA is the recipe book. And some of those recipes, those genes, their function is to help push against aging. I just got the 15-minute sign. There's no way I'm going to make it. Really. All right, another thing is that, again, they defend against the negative effects of aging aggressors. And here's the bad thing, is they seem to decline in expression and therefore function and efficiency as you age. So we need to take care of those, and that's what we have here. We have, what it results in, if you can control these then, is 10 systemic benefits. Now there's that word systemic again. What it really just means is whole body. That all of the cells in your body have these ADMs, and so if you can affect them, then you can affect systems throughout the whole body. Alright, so there's a summary, developed from exclusive gene expression insights that I explained, right? You're in the elevator now, you're explaining to your friends. A unique blend of ingredients that you just can't get from your diet alone, in Malaysia or anywhere, right? And then providing systemic youth preservation by helping to modulate those aging defense mechanisms. There's your elevator pitch. The door opens, you have their phone number, life is good, right? It is our most advanced anti-aging supplement. So, what's next? Well, I want to give you a summary of then how we develop our science and how we came across this and how we do it with all of our products. First is from the literature. We've spent countless hours looking through the literature for ingredients and for science that helps to validate what it is that we're doing. We have gene expression science that then adds value to what we've found in the literature. So I explained that already, right? We found papers on resveratrol, then we started doing gene expression. And finally, we do clinical research on those products or those formulations. So let me give you an example of some of the clinical research that we've done. First is our scanner study. We did a study that showed this formulation increased scanner score over time. It actually surprised us, considering the level of carotenoids that are in the product, how effective it was. The second study here is our absorption and kinetics study. So this is important because it helps us to know that those ingredients are getting into the bloodstream and how long they stay there before they leave. And what this shows us is that you need to take the product twice a day because they don't stay in your body the whole day, right? Twice a day. Here's our aging defense mechanism study that studied skin and its ability to push back against some of these aging aggressors. This study is going to be published soon. It's been accepted for publication. And then finally, a skin health study. This is kind of cool because, you know, when I started out, I didn't say that this was a skin product, but I did say that we have aging defense mechanisms that are in all of the cells of the body. Your skin has cells, doesn't it? And actually, if you can see a result on your skin, it's a pretty good indication that it's working in all the other cells of the body too. So this is a really fun discovery. This will also be published very soon. Now, you've all been wondering about this study, right? a fifth study that we did, which was, I think, the most exciting and the most expensive study that we did, the brain health study. Have you been wondering about this? Yeah, I think every time a scientist comes to your market, we say, yeah, we're doing this study, it's really cool, but we can't tell you about it, right? Today I'm going to tell you a bit more about it, because we have the results, right? So, the study is divided into two parts. It used human subjects that were taking the product or a placebo. And the first part is functional MRI, or magnetic resonance imaging. So you get a live person that has taken the product or not, and they slide into a machine, and you get a magnetic resonance image of the brain. And the images look something like this. And in that, you can find the parts of the brain that are connected to each other or not. So three major findings then were that in the anterior cingulate cortex, or the part of the brain at the back that's responsible for error detection, that there was greater connectivity. So that was a really striking and different finding. That was very good. In the posterior cingulate part of the brain, there is a section that's related to memory, and that improved. There was more connectivity there. There was one particular part, which was the right ocular cingulate part of the brain, where there was less connectivity. Less connectivity this time. What does that mean? Because that doesn't sound good, does it? Actually, it's a good thing, because that sort of opens up channels so that you can pay more attention to new data that's coming into the brain. So how many of you, as distributors and business people, would like to have the ability to have increased sort of memory connection, increased error detection, and also the ability to take in new data? Does that sound good? Yeah. The second part of the study was about cognitive tests. Right, so we did cognitive tests on these individuals, and let me tell you about the first one. There were some logical memory tests. So in the logical memory test, it's like we tell you a story, and then you have to relate back key details of the story, and do you score high or low? And I can tell you that I don't always score well when my wife is telling me something, and I just go, yes dear, and then she says, what did I just say? And I'm like, wow, I need to remember the details of that story. She's always telling me I'm not listening, right? And what turns out is that men improve the most in this particular aspect. So this is something that you guys need, right? You need to listen to your wives. You need to be able to remember the story. Okay? Another memory test that they used was, give you a list of items, and how can you recall all those items on the list? Now this is another one that I fail miserably at many times. My wife will send me to the store to get 3 things. And I go through the store and I go, I've got 2 things, and I can't remember the third. And I'm like, I don't want to call my wife and tell her I can't remember, because that makes me seem dumb, right? So then I call her, she says, you weren't listening again, 3 things, right? And it turns out that men improved the most on this particular memory test as well. So men, you can listen to your wives and you can remember the grocery list. I'm liking this already, right? Now, verbal fluency, this is another test that was done. Verbal fluency is remembering a series of words when you're giving a limited search criterion. So, for example, give me a list of all the objects beginning with the letter F. Start now, I'm going to time you. Right? Can you think of some? Frog, fire, new skin fountain. Okay? So, women improved on that the most. So, women have already got great verbal fluency, but that seemed to improve a lot there. And then finally, mood. And it turns out that mood increased in women, but not so much in men. So men, you can stay grumpy when you take this product. But for the women, we expect you to have better moods all the time. Always smiley, always happy, even when we forget the grocery list, okay? So this is a really, really nice study. and we will be able to publish this. We're very excited with the results, but that's a good glimpse into how the study went on YouthSpan Pack. Just a reminder that the 6S process is something that is weaved into everything that we do, from sourcing right through to substantiation. This is our promise of quality to you in our products, so this remains. So now, I'm just going to answer sort of a question that I get quite frequently. Everyone has their favorite product already, right? And then when we introduce a new product, they always ask us, well, how does this work with the product that I have? So obviously I won't be able to answer it for all products, but for some recent products. So for example, our weight management system and our R². So let me answer it for those. Now, for those of you who are new, R² was the first product that we developed using this technology, and it was a little less systemic. It was more targeted towards energy and cellular purification. And so people ask, how does this work with YouthSpan Pack? And I'm really excited to answer this one for you. Let me try to here. Brain health is the connector here. Everyone wants to improve brain health. And you know, lately the marketers have come to us in the R&D department and have said, millennials, you need to focus on products for millennials. And you know, my answer at first is, millennials don't even have money. Why are we targeting them? I don't know the answer to that, right? They even told me to dress more like a millennial today, so that's why I have my cool clothes and my colored shoes, right? Yeah, no more black suits for me. So, you know, we need to sort of target what is the young people interested in, as well as old guys like me. And I can tell you that the brain, I think, is a great connector here. Young people have all sorts of stresses, right? They're going to college. They need to remember a lot of new facts. They have friends that they're always trying to impress, right? They have this social network now that we never dreamed of, right? And so young people need to have good brains. More and more, actually, young people at university are starting to target or starting to use brain-enhancing drugs. Some of them are prescription drugs that they shouldn't be taking, like Adderall, right? And in fact, I'm going to use too much time, I know it. The CIA has been recruiting young people in the United States, and more has to reject these young people, these people who have really high scores on their university college degrees, and they do a polygraph, a lie detector test, and it asks questions like, have you ever taken drugs? And they say no, and then it goes, and then they find out they've been taking, you know, these brain neural network enhancing drugs, right, that are prescriptions. So young people are definitely interested in good brain, and these days they're using these things instead of nice, safe supplements to enhance their brain activity. Now what about old people like me? Well, we start to forget our children's names. I have 8 children, and I'm starting to get a little confused sometimes which child is which. So I have hybrid names that I use. Like I have a girl named Stephanie and a girl named Sarah. Now I just go Stephanie, right? So we need to remember names. Like there's a lot of baby boomers in the room. You have a business. You need to remember faces and names. I'm amazed at how well you distributors do it. I'm not so good at it. Scott Schwert was good at it. I know David's good at it. You need to be able to remember things. You need to be able to remember words. Sometimes you have to be called on stage and you have to remember the word for things. And you go, what was that again? So whether you're old or whether you're young, the brain is really important. So, how do these work together? YouthSpan works on aging defense mechanisms that exist in the brain to help you, give you youthful cognition. We just showed you a brain study that we did. Remember that? Yeah, I know it was a long time ago, but we remember that, right? R² works on mitochondria. Mitochondria are like the battery pack for your computer, only this time it's your brain, right? Your computers need energy, your brain needs energy. We've even done a cognitive study with R² on the brain. So this is a perfect combination of products for your brain. What about physical performance? So young people want that, right? They want to look good. It's more about vanity with the young people. Muscles, stuff like that, right? They want to be fit. They're running marathons, right? But all people want good physicality too, right? And it's partly not just about how strong you are, but how fluid you are, right? We, as scientists, we're very interested in people that are aging well. And we've traveled to Okinawa a couple of times, to the Ogimi village there. And we have seen 100-year-old people, literally 100 years old, that can touch their toes, and they get down and up. They look like ballerinas, even though they're 100 years old. So they have neuromuscular systems that work really well. We want that when we're older as well, don't we? That's kind of a symbol of our age, is how fluid we are, and how we can move without pain, right? So, YouthSpan has aging defense mechanisms that work on joint fluidity and physical performance. And R squared, energy, right? Mitochondria, giving you energy and stamina. So another perfect combination of products that are both for the millennials and the baby boomers. It's great, isn't it? So I tell this to the marketers. We've already got products that are great for millennials, right? And so do you. What about TR90? Because that's a real favorite in Malaysia, isn't it? So how does it work there? Well, YouthSpan actually has aging defense mechanisms that are related to lipid and glucose metabolism support. This is part of the aging defense mechanism. Healthy blood lipids and healthy glucose. TR90, also we know it works on metabolism, mood and muscle, right, for weight management. So these work actually very well together. Let me show you also just another example of aging defense mechanisms. You see here some of the aging stresses, right? These are the things that are pushing against the cell, causing it to age, and the cells are pushing back. Now you will notice that some of these external aging aggressors are the same things that are assisted by TR90, right? And so what you're doing is you're actually reducing the stress from the outside. In that sense, you're working on both ends of aging. So I hope that helps you to understand how it works with some of your favorite products. We will continue to focus on improving people's lives with innovative products. And I'm really excited to be part of this launch here with you today for our YouthSpan pack in Malaysia. Stay young. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Bala, for the information sharing. And now I'm sure we are able to know how we can live young, live more, and live more youthful years with age like YouthSpan. I believe some of you might have the chance to actually try this soon.